In 2022, Esker made a bold move to become a full source to pay provider with the addition of Market Dojo. Now, 2 years in, how is this addition shaping up? I'm Scott Leahy, and this is Esker On Air. Joining me today is Adam Collins, head of sales for North America at Market Dojo. And today we're going to dig into the impact of this expansion. We're going to discuss what has worked for each company, challenges faced, and lessons learned, but most importantly, what has worked for the people using these solutions. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Scott. Pleasure to be here. Been looking forward to this ever since we lined it up for production. So yeah, pleasure to be here.
Glad to hear it. Well, let's start off with maybe a two-part question here, some of it kind of personal. How have the last 2 years been as a company, but also for you specifically?
Yeah, it's a good starter question. So if I cast my mind back to when was it? Maybe around Q1 22, where there were murmurs of this big corporation that was breathing down Market Dojo's neck and had a vested interest in acquiring us. It was kind of exciting. We all did our own respective research on what Esker did. We got a good understanding from an employee perspective as to where they were strong, and it looked pretty promising from the outside. Then when obviously it became official, I was kind of seconded immediately out to North America to kind of help stand sourcing up from an Esker perspective. So on a personal level, it was just a whirlwind of emotions, challenges, learnings, brick walls, and all sorts of crazy things. And it's been a ride. I've been able to experience, the kind of culture within Esker, from within the, I guess, largest subsidiary, and certainly in the Americas. I've embraced it, and I think people have embraced me as well. I've learned a tremendous amount about the world of finance and document automation. And equally, I'd like to think that Esker has learned a tremendous amount around sourcing and obviously servicing the procurement market. So it's just been crazy. It's gone so fast. It feels like only yesterday I was applying for my visa. And having spent obviously the last 2 years out of the Madison office up in Wisconsin, it's been exciting.
Obviously different companies coming together here. Have you found that the two companies, culture merges? Have you felt that there's been any clashes?
Honestly, one of the key things that I guess from Market Dojo's leadership standpoint was really key with whoever it was that they, decided to allow to invest into them. It really was around the culture and the fit. And I guess half an eye on kind of protecting the employees that were going to be going on this adventure with them. I have to say we couldn't have worked with a better organization. I think Esker's culture, given that it, is a corporate environment, is actually such a fun, welcoming, and also very innovative and entrepreneurial place to be. There isn't any kind of feeling that your voice isn't heard. And that really was and is still what Market Dojo's culture is all about. So I think the fit there is absolutely perfect. I've experienced firsthand, obviously, some of the things that Esker does with its employees and how it takes care of its employees as well. But also the way that we innovate in regards to our respective solutions as well. I think there is an absolute synergy right there that, continues to grow. So that synergy has been flawless, and it really couldn't have gone better from that standpoint. I'm honored to be a part of it, really, because it's felt very seamless, and you guys in the US took very good care of me whilst I was there.
It's that Midwest hospitality.
There you go.
How would you say the partnership has enhanced what Esker already offered customers? What was the purpose of this investment?
Yeah, a good question. I think that one of the predominant drivers for Esker was that, being a very well-established organization that serviced finance specifically and, had already made great strides and almost got ahead of the curve in things like, AI and automation, etc. What they were really looking for, or what they were lacking, if you will, was that upstream capability or that product that could service the upstream activity that kind of leads finance back into the procurement world, which naturally is the kind of source to contract or eSourcing aspect. So being a household P2P platform, and with some of the market shifting towards a focus of having a wider capability in S2P, certainly the likes of Gartner, for example, even changing their Magic Quadrant, broadening it out to S2P. I think that was really one of the key drivers for Esker, to identify a platform that fitted within its own respective roadmap, had the same vision, had the capability to very, very seamlessly, integrate even into the rest of the downstream capability. Those were more than likely the key drivers. And I think really it kind of is the final piece in the puzzle, from a S2P standpoint, or an S2P offering. And one of the great things as well is that the solutions, whilst they are, technically a suite, or presented as a suite, they're still very much modular, which again is quite unique. And this is one of the reasons why Gartner recognizes Esker as being a niche player on that particular quadrant. So I think adding the final piece of the puzzle on the P2P side, and adding an offering to procurement that directly impacts the CFO's office, which is something our very own COO speaks highly of, the CFO's office.
Thinking about, if it's possible, zeroing in on the biggest challenge that you saw, or continue to see, what was that, and what have you learned from that?
We've had to learn a lot of things on the way. Market Dojo being a very modest, UK-based organization that has now all of a sudden got a worldwide organization that's almost 40 years established, and, in 15 different countries around the world. That global footprint also, gives you some growing pains, from a kind of, dare I say, kind of startup to, heavily invested technology. And
well, you've been at this 2 years now. I've seen you a lot on LinkedIn, so I know that you're doing a lot of trade shows, webinars, things like that. You're meeting a lot of people, having a lot of conversations. So what's the most interesting thing? What's the most eye-opening thing you've heard on your journeys here?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is one of the things that Esker have very kindly, given me a bit of a springboard, and also Esker as a organization in its own right, a platform to start going out there and shouting from the rooftops about this new capability that they have to offer the market. So, yeah, I've traveled quite a lot of the US, at various trade shows with various different bodies, various different industries, some supply chain focus. Some that are very much sourcing only focused, other things a little bit broader like finance and procurement. I think the supply chain exercise, or the supply chain trade show, actually was probably most of interest, in that it really did have an audience that pretty much every element of what Esker has to offer catered for, right the way from that, front end, going out and buying materials and goods and services, through to the finance aspect of automation, through invoicing, and then on the other side of the house, the kind of invoice to cash, the actual order management, inventory management, and cash collections. That platform, or that exercise, that event itself, it covered every single thing that Esker had to offer. And I just had never been to something like that, where we had an audience that the solution was broad enough to actually cater for every single persona. Now, there's been other things as well that we've learned. We've found our way a little bit, and we've leaned on partners that have advised us as to, where's really good to kind of focus things like marketing effort, and also, the kind of messaging, etc. And again, benefited from Esker having a much larger marketing team and slightly larger marketing budgets as well, to kind of help us with that, footprint and messaging to get out there. I think that's one of the things that's also been something that's super exciting for us to be able to do, with some very, very quick ROI as well, I must say, which has only kind of whetted the appetite for what might be in store for 25, 26. Whilst we are 2 years into this journey, there's still a long, long way to go. And I would say that we're only just now starting to really see that momentum and the fruition, if you will, as it hasn't been without, some teething problems.
Well, what have you heard from existing Esker customers that has maybe influenced how Market Dojo makes decisions?
So obviously, one of the first things that we've tried to do is, highlight to the existing Esker client base that they have a solution that kind of complements the rest of their P2P offering that they may already use, heavy adopters of things like AP or PO requisitioning within the procurement module. So naturally, we've gone to them and kind of shown them this tool out of the box that's very quick and easy to stand up and go and run RFQs, today, tomorrow, next week, if you want to. And a lot of the feedback has been initially around the harmonization of, the UI, the UX, for example. And in addition to that, the kind of natural flow going from sourcing into Esker procurement. So one of the first things that we obviously did when we became a part of the Esker family was focus heavily on that natural integration between the platforms, but we perhaps left behind the UI aspect. And when we started showing this to some of the existing Esker client base, the common theme was very much along the lines of it would be amazing if this actually looked and felt a lot more like it was, genuinely Esker's product, which, as we've taken that feedback on board, we've prioritized the UI, the UX, and the harmonization on that front. And there's been further enhancements that, again, have just come off of the back of the recommendations from the existing Esker client base that have a genuine need for this type of solution and can see where it's going to benefit them further downstream.
Knowing all that you know now after all of these conversations, is there a good time for current automation users, maybe and especially existing Esker customers, to take a serious look at e-sourcing?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've adopted or you're high adopters of the Esker platform, certainly the AP or the AR aspect of Esker's offering, then what all the benefits that there are to be had from leveraging that kind of technology. So I think you've already probably done the heaviest element of the lift, is what I would say, because there's quite a lot of customization and process and thought that has to go into the implementation of something like AP, something like AR. But where what that benefit looks like, and now that the same solution, the same house is able to offer you another tool that offers automation capability, but is available out of the box, then I would say now is a really good time for you to look at how Esker could further improve your efficiency and ultimately your bottom line. I think certainly if an organization that currently uses AP, AR, or even some of the other Esker modules, but doesn't necessarily have anything in place for sourcing, that might still be done manually via email spreadsheet, then I would certainly recommend that, perhaps you knock on procurement's door and say, hey guys, you should take a look at this that Esker has to offer now, because we're reaping the benefits here in finance of, this automation and all of that, time saving that the product provides us with. They now have something for you guys as well that I think actually could be of interest and save you a huge amount of time and effort too. So I think, like I say, if you're a heavy adopter and you understand the benefit that you're gaining from automation, you've done the heaviest part of that lift. Sourcing is just the kind of cherry on top that can very easily help you achieve some very quick ROI and potentially, free up some budget for further digital transformation.
Well, obviously, customer needs are always going to evolve. How are you planning to further enhance the Esker Market Dojo solutions to meet those various changes?
One of the very first things that we obviously focused on was getting that initial integration in play, and that was completed, I think, around about 18 months ago. That integration being the ability to kind of flow an RFQ or an e-auction result directly into a purchase requisition. So that data flow exists and was the very first thing that we attacked. In addition to that, then we focused on the UI, the UX, the harmonization off of the back of the customer feedback. So that has also been released as well. And then the other enhancement that we added to the sourcing capability or the sourcing integration with the Esker procurement module was the ability to actually begin a sourcing exercise from within Esker. So, the end user might initiate a PO rec, it might go through the respective approval process, and it may come to a certain budget holder or approver that says, hey, actually, I am going to go and run an RFQ here because it's of a certain value. You could initiate the sourcing event from within procurement, run the sourcing exercise, and then pull the results back. So it kind of does full circle in that it bolts onto either side of either beginning the requisition process, carrying out the actual exercise, and completing the requisition process. Beyond this, I mean, there's been, again, listening to what the market are asking for, suggestions around how the sourcing platform could also integrate into Esker contracts. So that source data can be pulled directly into a draft of a contract. There's also some murmurings around the concept of having the supplier database, or the suppliers or vendors from within Esker's supplier onboarding module that the customer obviously has created records of, being able to be leveraged in the sourcing tools, so that you're able to use those pre-approved vendors in a sourcing event, or equally you could push a vendor post-sourcing event into the onboarding process if it's the very first time that you've perhaps worked with them. So there are further integrations planned and further harmonization planned. And there's also further work that's going to be going into the ability to leverage AI as well, which we've only just dipped our toe into in the world of sourcing. But I know, again, Esker have been doing that for a number of years and are very accomplished in how they can make the most out of AI. So again, one of the other benefits of us becoming a part of Esker is being able to leverage Esker's respective development team to help inspire us as to where we could take this product.
Well, now that the vast majority of the dust has settled here, are there any success stories where customers have significantly saved time or costs by using the combined Esker and Market Dojo solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly reference a scenario where not necessarily the two solutions we used in harmony, but an existing Esker customer, became aware of the fact that Esker now had a sourcing offering. And once they further investigated that, they were really excited by the ability to just kind of use it on an ad hoc basis to de-risk the investment, because the sourcing solution is something that you can kind of turn on ad hoc. It's a very much off the shelf and readily available platform to the trained eye. So anybody that has used any kind of sourcing software before would find a solution like ours a walk in the park. And so as luck would have it, one of the stakeholders from the existing Esker client had decided that, yeah, you know what, like maybe we should give this a go. A very, very small investment. I'm not going to name specifically the value, but I can certainly call out the ROI, and that they went on to save over 70,000 from their investment by running an e-auction for some corrugated card, which, again, not the most exciting category, but by being able to leverage a digital tool that could stand up an e-auction and put all of those vendors into a competitive environment, it helped them achieve an unbelievable saving, much more than they even imagined themselves. And what that kind of did, I guess, was inspired them to think about where more they could leverage this, or where else they could leverage this. So they kind of built a team and then came back to us and said, right, we're now ready, we're now matured, and we now can justify further investment into the respective products. So they've gone on and done that. And yeah, obviously they do now have that set up so that they can feed sourcing directly into Esker's procurement module. But other success stories as well have been where organizations, again, that have kind of taken that leap of faith and done a proof of concept or pilot. A very established Esker client used it for a number of years, say, hey, you know what? Okay, yeah, we currently source manually. Let's give this a go. You can de-risk it for us by not making us commit for too long. They go and run that pilot exercise, and then they see the reward from the actual exercise by means of a huge amount of ROI and also time saving as well. I think what we're finding is that because Esker has a model that is very, well, not entirely, but virtually risk-free from a sourcing standpoint, it makes it really easy for individuals to kind of take that punt or the leap of faith, if you will. And those individuals as well are the ones that are the most vocal about, where we could really take this from a kind of roadmap standpoint too. So they're helping us in many ways actually evolve the tool and help us really, really synergize the products even further.
Well, I guess walk us through how people can get familiar with the sourcing platform, if you will.
Yeah, as I said, it's an off-the-shelf tool, so it's ultimately readily available out the box. It doesn't really require any kind of implementation aside from a slight amount of customization and training. But again, anybody that's ever experienced any kind of eSourcing tool will find this very straightforward to navigate. If you go to marketdojo.com/sign up, or just go to marketdojo.com, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, there is a button that says sign up for free. If you register as a host, that will then allow you to actually experience your own respective environment and access the sandpit or the sandbox, which allows you to poke around in the host profile. It allows you to poke around with all of the features that the tool has, experience it from not only the host side, the supplier side, and get really acclimated with how the system works. And then if you wanted to, you could very easily ask us to, provide you with a credit for a month, or, a single event even, to go and stand up an exercise, theoretically within 24 hours of actually creating your host account. So anybody is more than welcome to just go and create a host account and start poking around in the system. And if you are an adopter of Esker's procurement module already at the moment as well, get in touch with us if you want to do that, because we can do an API key exchange so that you can see what that integration looks like too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Adam, for joining us today. It's much appreciated.
My pleasure, Scott, and thank you for having me.
If you have any questions or are interested in if eSourcing or Market Dojo can help you out, check the links in the show notes. And as always, if you're interested in learning more about Esker, you can find us at esker.com. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll talk to you next time.